First contact and underestimation. The vast expanse of space had long been silent, but that silence was about to be shattered. The Zirconian Empire, a technologically advanced alien civilization, had been expanding its reach across the galaxy for millennia. Their sleek obsidian ships cut through the darkness of space with predatory grace, each vessel a testament to their supposed superiority. Admiral Vexthor stood on the bridge of the flagship, his four eyes narrowing as they focused on the holographic display of a small blue planet. Earth, as the natives called it, hung suspended in the projection, ignorant of the fate that awaited it. "Another primitive world," Vexthor remarked, his voice a low rumble that reverberated through the command deck. "Prepare the invasion fleet. This conquest will serve as an excellent training exercise for our younger warriors." His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Zalora, stepped forward, her silver skin reflecting the soft glow of the ship's instruments. "Admiral, our initial scans show some level of technological advancement. Perhaps we should conduct further research before." Vexthor cut her off with a dismissive wave of his upper arm. "Nonsense. Look at their pitiful defenses, their fragmented nations. They still wage war among themselves with projectile weapons and combustion engines. They are children playing at being adults." Zalra nodded, deferring to her superior's judgment, but a flicker of doubt crossed her features. She had seen other species underestimated before, and it rarely ended well for the overconfident. As the Zirconian fleet moved into position around Earth, humanity remained blissfully unaware. It was a typical day on the planet, with billions going about their lives, dealing with the mundane challenges of existence. In New York, London, Beijing, and countless other cities, people rushed to work, argued over politics, and dreamed of a better future. The first sign that something was amiss came when global communications began to fail. Satellites blinked out one by one, leaving confused technicians scrambling for explanations. Military radar operators watched in disbelief as their screens filled with anomalies, objects moving at impossible speeds and altitudes. It was in this moment of confusion that the Zirconians struck. Dropships pierced the atmosphere, their energy shields flickering as they absorbed the heat of entry. They landed in key locations around the globe, disgorging squads of alien soldiers equipped with energy weapons and powered armor. The initial human response was chaos. Panic spread through population centers as people caught sight of the otherworldly invaders. Military forces scrambled to respond, but their jets and tanks seemed woefully inadequate against the advanced Zirconian technology. Admiral Vexthor watched the unfolding invasion with smug satisfaction. "You see, Zalora, they crumble before us like insects beneath a boot." But even as he spoke, something unexpected was happening on the ground. In New York City, a group of construction workers had commandeered their equipment, using cranes and bulldozers to create barricades against the alien advance. In rural China, farmers were using their intimate knowledge of the land to lead alien patrols into treacherous bogs and quicksand. Zalra's eyes widened as she processed the incoming reports. "Admiral, we're encountering resistance. It appears the humans are adapting to our tactics far more quickly than anticipated." Vexthor scoffed, but there was a note of uncertainty in his voice. "Impossible. They are primitives. How could they possibly?" His words were cut short as an alarm blared through the command ship. On the holographic display, a Zirconian dropship erupted in flames, brought down not by advanced weaponry, but by a cleverly improvised trap involving nothing more than steel cables and determination. As the hours passed, more reports flooded in, each more bewildering than the last. In London, a group of historians and museum curators had used their knowledge of ancient warfare to organize an effective defense, using medieval tactics against the high-tech invaders. In Tokyo, robotics engineers had hastily reprogrammed industrial machines to counter alien ground forces. Vexthor's confidence began to waver as he watched the unfolding events. These humans, these supposedly primitive beings, were displaying a level of adaptability and ingenuity that he had never encountered in countless conquests across the stars. "How is this possible?" he muttered, more to himself than to his subordinates. "They have no unified government, no advanced weapons. By all rights, they should have surrendered by now." Zalora, emboldened by the turn of events, spoke up. "Sir, I believe we may have gravely underestimated these humans. Their strength doesn't seem to lie in their technology or their military might, but in something different." As if to underscore her point, a transmission cut through the command ship's communications. It was a broadcast, crude by Zarkonian standards, but clear enough. On screens throughout the alien fleet, the face of a human appeared, not a leader or a soldier, but an ordinary woman, her eyes blazing with defiance. "To the invaders who think they can take our home," she began, her voice steady despite the sounds of battle in the background. "Know this: we are humanity. We have faced extinction, tyranny, and our own worst impulses, and we have survived. We have climbed from the primordial ooze to touch the face of our own moon. We are not your prey, we are not your subjects, and we will not go quietly into the night." As her words echoed through the Zarkonian ships, something unprecedented happened. Alien soldiers, watching the transmission, felt a flicker of doubt. They had been trained to expect easy victory, to see other species as inferior. But in the face of this human's raw determination, that certainty began to crumble. Admiral Vexthor, his earlier bravado evaporating, turned to his second-in-command. "Zalora, I fear we may have awakened something we do not understand. These humans, they fight not just with weapons, but with a spirit I have never encountered." As the first day of the invasion drew to a close, the Zarkonian forces found themselves not celebrating an easy conquest, but regrouping and reevaluating. The humans, far from being subdued, were rallying. In cities and villages around the world, people were coming together, sharing information, and preparing for a fight they had never trained for, but seemed born ready to face. The invasion had begun, but it was far from the simple exercise Vexthor had anticipated. As he stared at the holographic image of Earth, no longer serene but now alight with the fires of resistance, he realized that his fleet had stumbled upon something rare and terrifying in the universe, a species that, when pushed to the brink, revealed itself to be far deadlier than anyone could have imagined. The true test of humanity's reputation as the deadliest warriors in the universe was just beginning, and the Zarkonians were about to learn why underestimating humans was the last mistake many species ever made. The invasion begins. As dawn broke over a changed Earth, the Zarkonian invasion entered its second phase. Admiral Vexthor, shaken but determined, had regrouped his forces overnight. The element of surprise was gone, but he still believed in the superiority of Zarkonian technology and tactics. "We underestimated them yesterday." Vexthor addressed his commanders, his voice a low growl. "It will not happen again. Launch a full-scale assault on their major population centers. Show these humans the true might of the Zarkonian Empire." Across the globe, massive ships descended from the sky, their hulls gleaming in the morning sun. They positioned themselves over cities like New York, Tokyo, London, and Beijing. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then chaos erupted. Energy beams lanced down from the ships, cutting swaths through buildings and infrastructure. Smaller craft swarmed from the larger vessels, deploying troops and attack drones. The air filled with the sound of explosions and the acrid smell of ozone from alien weaponry. But humanity was no longer caught off guard. In New York, the underground subway system, long the bane of commuters, became an unexpected asset. Retired transit workers guided thousands to safety through the labyrinthine tunnels, while improvised fighting units used the network to move unseen, striking at alien forces and vanishing before retaliation could come. Tokyo's response showcased the power of technology and organization. Tech-savvy citizens had worked through the night to create mesh networks, keeping communication alive even as alien forces tried to disrupt it. Robotics firms repurposed their machines for defense, sending out swarms of drones to confuse and harry the invaders. In the skies above London, the Royal Air Force engaged in desperate battle. Human pilots, outgunned and outmaneuvered, nevertheless fought with a ferocity that stunned their alien opponents. Wing Commander Sarah Chen, her jet's weapons exhausted, made history by ramming her aircraft into an alien fighter, taking it down and ejecting at the last second. Her act of sacrifice inspired others, and soon the Zarkonians found themselves facing opponents who seemed to have no fear of death. Beijing's defense centered around an unexpected source: its elderly population. Millions of Tai Chi practitioners took to the streets and parks, their slow, deliberate movements confusing alien targeting systems calibrated for more rapid human motion. Behind this living shield, younger citizens and military personnel mounted ambushes and counterattacks. Admiral Vexthor watched the unfolding chaos with growing unease. "How is this possible?" he demanded, slamming a fist onto his command console. "They have no unified global defense, no advanced shield technology. By all logic, they should be crushed by now." Sub-Commander Zalra, monitoring the global situation, offered her insight. "Sir, it appears the humans are employing what they call asymmetric warfare. They're not trying to match our strength head-on. Instead, they're using their knowledge of their environment and their unpredictability to their advantage." As if to underscore her point, reports flooded in from around the world. In Rio de Janeiro, carnival dancers used their elaborate costumes to conceal weapons and supplies, moving them past alien patrols. In Mumbai, Bollywood stunt performers turned their skills to warfare, performing impossible feats to outmaneuver alien troops in the city's crowded streets. The Zarkonian ground forces, for all their advanced training and equipment, found themselves increasingly frustrated. Human tactics defied their strategic algorithms and combat doctrines. In Chicago, a group of improvisational comedy performers led alien patrols on wild chases through the city, using their quick thinking and knowledge of obscure shortcuts to evade capture and set up ambushes. One Zarkonian squad leader, Krevax, found himself pinned down in the narrow streets of Rome. His energy rifle, capable of punching through tank armor, was nearly useless in the tight quarters. To his shock, he watched a group of humans armed with centuries-old gladiatorial weapons charging towards his position. The absurdity of the situation struck him even as he called for retreat. "Command," he reported, his voice tight with disbelief. "The humans, they're not fighting according to any recognizable doctrine. Every group seems to have its own method, its own madness. How do we combat an enemy with no standardized approach?" The question echoed across the Zarkonian command structure. Their entire military was built on the principle of overwhelming force and superior technology. But against the humans, these advantages seemed to count for less and less with each passing hour. In orbit, Vexthor grappled with a decision. The invasion was not proceeding as planned, but surely it was only a matter of time before human resistance crumbled. He still had weapons capable of devastating entire continents. Perhaps a show of overwhelming force would finally break the humans' will to fight. As he contemplated this, Zalra approached with new intelligence. "Admiral," she began, her tone cautious, "we've intercepted human communications. It appears they're already beginning to reverse engineer some of our fallen technology." Vexthor's eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible. Our technology is centuries beyond their understanding. It would take them generations to." His words trailed off as Zalra brought up a video feed. In a hastily assembled lab in Bangalore, human scientists and engineers were swarming over a downed Zarkonian fighter. To the Admiral's astonishment, they had already bypassed several security systems and were in the process of adapting the alien power source to human technology. "How long did this take them?" Vexthor asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Approximately 6 hours, sir." The implications were staggering. The Zarkonians had encountered other species before, of course. Some had put up fierce resistance, others had fallen quickly. But none had ever displayed this level of adaptability, this speed of technological assimilation. As the second day of the invasion wore on, more reports came in that defied Zarkonian understanding of warfare. In Australia's outback, indigenous trackers were guiding resistance fighters, using ancient techniques to detect and ambush alien patrols. In the Amazon rainforest, native tribes armed with blow darts, tipped with neurotoxins from local flora, were downing Zarkonian soldiers in their supposedly impenetrable armor. The global nature of human culture was proving to be an unexpected asset. In Canada, Inuit hunters used their knowledge of Arctic conditions to sabotage alien equipment. In the Sahara, Tuareg nomads became invaluable scouts, their millennia-old desert survival skills allowing them to gather intelligence on alien movements. Perhaps most disturbing to the Zarkonian High Command was the speed at which humans shared information. Despite the invaders' attempts to disrupt global communications, humans found ways to spread news of successful tactics and technological breakthroughs. Social media, once dismissed by Vexthor as a frivolous human pastime, became a powerful tool for coordinating resistance and boosting morale. As the day drew to a close, Vexthor found himself doing something he had never done in his long military career. He called for a halt to the invasion's advance. The Zarkonian forces needed to regroup, to reassess. What had begun as a simple conquest had turned into something far more complex and dangerous. In his private quarters, Vexthor reviewed the day's reports with a growing sense of unease. The humans' military forces, while technologically inferior, fought with a tenacity he had never encountered. Their civilian population, rather than cowering in fear, seemed to rally in the face of adversity, each individual becoming a potential soldier in a global guerrilla war. But it was the speed of human adaptation that truly unsettled him. In mere hours, they had begun to decipher Zarkonian technology. In days, he feared, they might begin to turn it against its creators. As he pondered this, a transmission came through from the planet's surface. It was a human broadcast, breaking through the Zarkonian communication jamming. On screens throughout the fleet, the face of a young human appeared. She was disheveled, clearly exhausted, but her eyes burned with an intensity that made even the battle-hardened admiral take notice. "To the aliens who thought they could take our home," she began, her voice steady despite the chaos visible in the background. "You have made a grave mistake. You saw our divisions and thought us weak. You saw our technology and thought us primitive. But you failed to see the one thing that truly defines us." She paused, and in that moment, Vexthor felt a chill run down his spine. "We are humanity. We have faced extinction, tyranny, and our own worst impulses, and we have survived. We have turned our destructive nature into a force for creation. We have taken our divisions and forged them into strength through diversity. You think you're facing a species. You're not. You're facing every individual human being on this planet, each one a potential hero, each one willing to die for the right to live free." The transmission cut off, but its impact lingered. Throughout the Zarkonian fleet, soldiers and officers alike found themselves grappling with a new sensation: doubt. Vexthor turned to Zalra, who had been silently watching the broadcast with him. "We may have made a terrible mistake," he said softly. Zalra nodded, her expression grim. "The question is, Admiral, what do we do now?" As the second day of the invasion ended, both sides prepared for what was to come. The Zarkonians, their confidence shaken, began to approach the conflict with a new sense of caution. The humans, buoyed by their unexpected successes, steeled themselves for the battles ahead. The invasion had begun, but its outcome was far from certain. Humanity had revealed itself to be far deadlier than anyone, perhaps even humans themselves, had imagined. The true test of their reputation as the universe's most formidable warriors was just beginning, and the Zarkonians were learning, to their cost, why underestimating humans was a mistake few species lived to repeat. Turning the tide. As the third day of the Zarkonian invasion dawned, Earth had become a planet transformed. The initial shock had given way to a grim determination that seemed to unite humanity in ways never before seen. The invaders, expecting a swift victory, now found themselves embroiled in a conflict that defied their understanding of warfare. In the Zarkonian flagship, Admiral Vexthor paced restlessly. The confident commander of days past was gone, replaced by a leader grappling with doubt. "Status report," he barked, turning to Sub-Commander Zalra. Zalra's expression was grim as she brought up a holographic display of Earth. "Sir, our forces are facing unprecedented challenges. The humans have begun employing our own technology against us, and their guerrilla tactics are proving difficult to counter." On the holo display, red dots representing Zarkonian positions were blinking out one by one. Vexthor watched in disbelief as another cluster vanished. "Explain," he demanded. "It appears a group of human hackers have managed to infiltrate our communication systems," Zalra explained. "They're feeding false information to our ground troops, leading them into ambushes." Meanwhile, on the ground, the reality of this new phase of the war was unfolding. In Silicon Valley, a coalition of tech companies had turned their considerable resources towards the war effort. Social media algorithms, once used to target advertisements, were now predicting Zarkonian troop movements with startling accuracy. Sarah Chen, a software engineer at a major tech firm, had never imagined she'd be on the front lines of an alien invasion. Yet here she was, leading a team of coders in a non-stop hackathon. "We've cracked their encryption," she announced, her eyes bright with exhaustion and excitement. "We can intercept and modify their communications in real time." Across the globe, similar breakthroughs were occurring. In Bangalore, scientists had successfully reverse-engineered Zarkonian energy shields. In Berlin, automotive engineers were adapting alien propulsion technology to create devastatingly effective mobile artillery units. But it wasn't just in labs and workshops that humanity's ingenuity shone. On the battlefields, soldiers and civilians alike were displaying a level of adaptability that left the Zarkonians reeling. In the jungles of Vietnam, local fighters were using their knowledge of tunnel warfare, honed over centuries of conflict, to run circles around the alien invaders. Zarkonian soldiers, trained for open combat, found themselves lost in a maze of underground passages, ambushed by enemies they couldn't see or track. In the streets of Paris, the spirit of resistance that had defined the city's history once again came to the fore. Artists turned their skills to crafting incredibly lifelike decoys, luring Zarkonian patrols into expertly laid traps. Chefs, their restaurants turned to rubble, instead used their knowledge of chemistry to develop new improvised explosives that could penetrate alien armor. Even in the vast openness of the Siberian tundra, where the Zarkonians expected to have the advantage, they found themselves outmaneuvered. Reindeer herders, intimately familiar with the harsh landscape, guided Russian special forces on swift, unpredictable strikes against alien positions. Back on the Zarkonian command ship, Vexthor was beginning to realize the full extent of the challenge they faced. "How?" he muttered, more to himself than to Zalra. "How can they adapt so quickly? How can they fight in so many different ways?" Zalra, who had been studying human history and culture intensively since the invasion began, offered her insight. "Sir, I believe it's their diversity that gives them strength. Each human culture, each individual, brings a unique perspective to problem solving. They're not fighting as a single unified force, but as billions of independent agents, each contributing in their own way." As if to underscore her point, reports began flooding in of a major Zarkonian defeat in East Africa. A coalition of Maasai warriors, Kenyan tech experts, and Ethiopian Air Force pilots had combined ancient tracking techniques, drone technology, and daring aerial maneuvers to bring down a Zarkonian capital ship. The defeat sent shockwaves through the Zarkonian fleet. For the first time, the invaders were forced to confront the possibility that they might lose this war. On Earth, news of the victory spread like wildfire, galvanizing resistance movements worldwide. In orbit, Vexthor made a fateful decision. "Prepare the world breaker," He commanded, his voice heavy. "If we cannot conquer this planet, we will make an example of it." The World Breaker was the Zarkonians' ultimate weapon, capable of shattering a planet's crust. Its use was a last resort, reserved for species deemed too dangerous to be allowed to survive. As the massive weapon began to power up, its energy signature was detected by human scientists. Panic spread as the nature of the threat became clear, but even in the face of potential extinction, humanity's resolve didn't waver. In a hastily convened virtual meeting of global leaders, scientists, and military strategists, a plan was formed. It was audacious, arguably insane, but it was the only hope Earth had. Around the world, every available resource was directed towards a single goal. Power grids were rerouted, causing blackouts in cities worldwide. Satellite networks were reconfigured, and in laboratories and workshops, humans worked feverishly to adapt their newly acquired alien technology. As the World Breaker reached full power, Vexthor gave the order to fire. A beam of unimaginable energy lanced down towards Earth. For a moment, it seemed that all was lost. But then, something unprecedented happened. As the beam struck Earth's atmosphere, it encountered a hastily constructed planetary shield, a patchwork of technologies, both human and Zarkonian, working in concert in ways their original designers had never imagined. The beam struck the shield, and for agonizing seconds, the fate of Earth hung in the balance. Then, to the astonishment of humans and Zarkonians alike, the energy began to refract, splitting into countless smaller beams that shot back into space. On the Zarkonian command ship, alarms blared as the refracted energy sliced through their fleet. Ships exploded or listed dead in space, their systems overloaded by the very weapon they had intended to use against Earth. Vexthor stared in disbelief at the carnage. "Impossible," he whispered, but the evidence was undeniable. In a matter of days, humanity had not only adapted Zarkonian technology, but had found a way to turn the invaders' greatest weapon against them. As the dust settled, the balance of power had shifted dramatically. The Zarkonian invasion force, once seemingly invincible, was now a battered fleet struggling to maintain orbit. On Earth, despite the destruction and loss of life, a sense of cautious optimism began to spread. Sarah Chen, the software engineer who had helped crack the Zarkonian communications, found herself being interviewed by a global news network. "How did we do it?" She repeated the reporter's question. "We did what humans have always done. We adapted. We innovated. We worked together in ways we never have before. This invasion, as terrible as it's been, it's shown us what we're capable of when we unite against a common threat." In the days that followed, human forces began to take the offensive. Using captured and reverse-engineered Zarkonian technology, they launched daring raids against the alien fleet. Each success boosted morale and provided more resources for Earth scientists and engineers to study and adapt. On the Zarkonian command ship, Vexthor faced a decision he had never anticipated. "We must retreat," he announced to his stunned officers. "We cannot win this war. Not against an enemy like this." As the Zarkonian fleet began to withdraw from Earth orbit, humanity celebrated its hard-won victory. But it was a celebration tempered by the knowledge that the wider galaxy now knew of Earth's existence and its potential as a formidable force. In the aftermath of the invasion, Earth began to change. The technology gleaned from the Zarkonians accelerated human development by centuries. More importantly, the shared experience of facing an existential threat had united humanity in unprecedented ways. As the last Zarkonian ship disappeared from Earth's sensors, a new chapter in human history began. Humanity had proven itself to be among the deadliest species in the universe, not through sheer strength or advanced technology, but through its incredible adaptability, its diversity, and its indomitable spirit. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would Earth. The invasion had revealed humanity's potential, for better or for worse, and now, with the stars within reach, the true test of human nature was about to begin. The human spirit unveiled, In the aftermath of the Zirconian retreat, Earth entered a period of rapid change and introspection. The invasion had left scars, both physical and psychological, but it had also united humanity in ways previously thought impossible. As the dust settled, both humans and the remaining Zirconians found themselves grappling with new realities and profound questions. Admiral Vexthor, once the confident leader of an invading armada, now sat in the brig of his own flagship. The retreat had been chaotic, and a significant portion of the Zirconian force had been left behind on Earth. Vexthor had chosen to remain, driven by a need to understand the species that had so thoroughly defeated them. Sub-Commander Zalra, now acting as a liaison between the captured Zirconians and human authorities, entered Vexthor's cell. "The humans wish to speak with you," she said, her tone neutral. "They have questions." Vexthor nodded slowly. "As do I," he replied. In a repurposed conference room at the United Nations headquarters in New York, a unique meeting was taking place. Human leaders, scientists, and philosophers sat across from Vexthor and a small group of Zirconian officers. The atmosphere was tense, charged with a mix of curiosity and lingering hostility. Dr. Amelia Rodriguez, a renowned anthropologist, opened the discussion. "We've agreed to this dialogue in the hope of fostering understanding," she began. "Our first question is simple. Why? Why did you choose to invade Earth?" Vexthor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of discomfort in his species. "It was routine," he admitted. "Your world seemed primitive by our standards. We've conquered countless such planets. It's how our empire expands." A murmur ran through the human side of the room. The casual way Vexthor spoke of conquest was chilling, yet also pitiable. "And now," asked General Wei Chen of the Chinese military, "what are your thoughts on humanity now?" Vexthor was silent for a long moment. "You are an anomaly," he said finally. "In all our conquests, we've never encountered a species like yours. Your technology was inferior, your planet divided. By all logic, you should have fallen quickly. Instead, you united. You adapted. You did the impossible, repeatedly. We don't understand how." Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward, her eyes bright with interest. "Perhaps we can help you understand. But first, we need to understand you. What drives the Zirconian Empire? What do your people value?" The question seemed to catch Vexthor off guard. "We value strength," he said after a pause. "Technological superiority, efficiency, the growth and glory of our empire. And the individuals within that empire," pressed Dr. Rodriguez. "What do they value?" Vexthor's confusion was evident. "They value serving the empire, fulfilling their designated roles. I don't understand the relevance of this line of questioning." Dr. Rodriguez smiled softly. "And therein lies the fundamental difference between our species. Humans value individuality, freedom, love, creativity. Yes, we can unite for a common cause, but it's our differences that give us strength." Over the next several hours, the discussion ranged widely. The Zirconians learned of human concepts like democracy, personal freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. They struggled to comprehend a society not built on rigid hierarchies and predetermined roles. For the humans, it was equally enlightening. They began to understand the Zirconian mindset, a species so focused on collective achievement that individual desires had been all but bred out of them. As the dialogue continued, Vexthor found himself grappling with concepts that challenged the very foundation of his worldview. "But how can a society function without a clear, centralized purpose?" he asked, genuinely perplexed. "How can progress be achieved when each individual pursues their own goals?" Dr. Maya Patel, a historian from India, took up this question. "Admiral, let me tell you a story," she began. "In my country, we have a tradition called Jugaad. It means finding creative, improvised solutions with limited resources. During your invasion, we saw Jugaad on a global scale. A farmer in Punjab used his knowledge of irrigation to short-circuit your energy weapons. A group of Bollywood stunt performers in Mumbai used their skills to evade and confuse your patrols. A software engineer in Bangalore reprogrammed obsolete smartphones to detect zirconian energy signatures. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. Don't you see? It was precisely because each human approached the problem differently, drawing on their unique experiences and skills, that we were able to adapt so quickly. Our diversity is our strength. The Zirconians listened, their expressions a mix of confusion and dawning comprehension. For a species that had always equated uniformity with strength, the idea that diversity could be an advantage was revolutionary. As the meeting continued, more human concepts were explored. The Zirconians learned of art, of music, of literature, pursuits that had no clear practical purpose, yet were deeply valued by humans. They heard of love, of sacrifice, of individuals risking everything not for an empire or a leader, but for ideals, for family, for strangers. During the invasion, recounted Sarah Chen, the software engineer who had helped crack Zirconian communications, I worked for days without sleep. I wasn't ordered to do it. I wasn't threatened with punishment if I failed. I did it because I couldn't bear the thought of letting down my fellow humans, because I believed in our right to exist, to be free. Vexthor and his officers exchanged glances. The idea of self-motivation, of individuals choosing to go above and beyond without coercion, was alien to them. Yet as they listened to more stories, of civilians risking their lives to save others, of soldiers fighting on against impossible odds, of scientists and engineers pushing the boundaries of possibility, they began to grasp the power of the human spirit. As the day wore on, the atmosphere in the room gradually shifted. The initial tension gave way to a cautious curiosity on both sides. Humans and Zirconians alike found themselves re-examining long-held beliefs and assumptions. Towards the end of the session, a young human artist named Gabriel Ortiz approached Vexthor with a sketchpad. I hope you don't mind, he said, but I've been drawing during our talk. He turned the pad around, revealing a series of sketches. Vexthor and the other Zirconians in various poses, their alien features captured with remarkable empathy and insight. Vexthor stared at the drawings, transfixed. In his entire life, he had never seen himself depicted this way. Not as an admiral, not as a conqueror, but simply as a being, with all the complexity that entailed. Why? He asked softly. Why would you create this? Gabriel shrugged. Because it's beautiful, he said simply. Because understanding starts with seeing each other as we truly are. As the meeting concluded, both humans and Zirconians left with much to ponder. The humans had glimpsed a society so different from their own that it challenged their notions of civilization. The Zirconians, for their part, found themselves questioning the very foundations of their empire. In the days that followed, more exchanges took place. Zirconian prisoners were allowed to interact with human society under careful supervision. Many were shocked to find humans treating them not with hatred, but with curiosity and even kindness. A group of Zirconian engineers, invited to tour a human research facility, watched in amazement as scientists from different countries argued passionately about competing theories. The idea of open debate, of challenging authority in the pursuit of truth, was revolutionary to them. Meanwhile, human scientists continued to study Zirconian technology, making leaps in fields like energy production and space travel. But perhaps more importantly, philosophers and leaders around the world began to grapple with the implications of humanity's new place in the galaxy. As Earth rebuilt and prepared for a future among the stars, the lessons of the invasion were not forgotten. Humanity had proven its strength, not through conquest, but through resilience, adaptability, and an unwavering spirit. Vexthor, watching Earth's rapid progress from his cell, found himself experiencing an unfamiliar emotion. It took him some time to identify it, but when he did, it shook him to his core. It was hope. Hope for a different kind of future, not just for humanity, but for his own people as well. As the fourth day since the failed invasion drew to a close, Earth stood at the threshold of a new era. The Zarkonian threat had been repelled, but greater challenges and opportunities lay ahead. Humanity had unveiled its spirit to the universe, revealing itself to be far deadlier and far more magnificent than anyone could have imagined. The true test was just beginning. How would humanity use its newfound power and knowledge? Would it succumb to the temptations of empire, as the Zarkonians had? Or would it forge a new path, one that celebrated the very diversity and individuality that had saved it? As the sun set on a changed Earth, these questions hung in the air, waiting to be answered by the actions of billions of individuals, each contributing their unique spark to the grand tapestry of human existence. Resolution and revelation. As weeks turned into months, since the failed Zarkonian invasion, Earth continued its rapid transformation. The integration of alien technology had accelerated human development across all fields, from medicine to space exploration. However, the most profound changes were occurring not in laboratories or factories, but in the hearts and minds of both humans and their former invaders. In what was once the war room of the Pentagon, now repurposed as an interspecies collaboration center, Admiral Vexthor stood before a mixed audience of humans and Zarkonians. The irony of his position was not lost on him. Once the leader of a conquering armada, he now found himself a teacher and student of the very species he had sought to subjugate. Fellow sentients, he began, his voice carrying a hint of humility that would have been unthinkable months ago. Today marks a significant milestone in our shared journey of understanding. We Zarkonians came to Earth as conquerors, certain of our superiority. We leave as students, humbled by the lessons humanity has taught us. In the audience, Dr. Amelia Rodriguez nodded encouragingly. Over the past months, she had worked closely with Vexthor and other Zarkonians, bridging the vast cultural divide between their species. It had been a challenging process, filled with misunderstandings and moments of frustration, but also breakthrough and growth. Vexthor continued, "We believe that strength came from uniformity, from rigid adherence to hierarchy and protocol. You showed us that true strength lies in diversity, in the ability to adapt and innovate. Each human, unique in their experiences and perspectives, contributed to your species' survival in ways we could never have anticipated." As he spoke, holographic displays around the room showcased moments from the invasion and its aftermath. Images of human ingenuity flashed by. Jury-rigged weapons made from everyday items, hastily coded software that had turned the tide of battles, and scenes of people from all walks of life working together in the face of annihilation. But perhaps the most profound lesson, Vexthor said, his voice softening, was not about warfare or technology. It was about the power of choice. In the Zarkonian Empire, we are assigned our roles at birth. Our lives are plotted out for the greater good of the Empire. But you humans, you choose. You decide your own paths. And in that freedom, you find strength we never knew existed. In the audience, Sarah Chen, the software engineer who had been instrumental in cracking Zarkonian communications, felt a lump in her throat. She remembered the sleepless nights, the moments of despair, and the exhilaration of breakthrough. It hadn't been duty that drove her. It had been passion, determination, and a fierce love for her fellow humans. Vexthor's speech marked a turning point. In the days that followed, the remaining Zarkonians on Earth were given a choice that was unprecedented in their society's history. They could return to the Empire, or they could stay on Earth as refugees, learning and contributing to human society. To the surprise of many humans, a significant number chose to stay. Among them was Zalra, the former sub-commander who had first sensed the unique threat that humanity posed. "I want to understand," she explained to Dr. Rodriguez. "I want to experience this freedom you speak of, to choose my own path." As Zarkonians integrated into human society, they brought with them knowledge that accelerated Earth's technological progress even further. But more importantly, they'd brought a perspective that made humans reflect deeply on their own nature. In a TED talk that went viral globally, Zaldra addressed an auditorium packed with humans eager to hear an alien's perspective. "You humans take so much for granted," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "The ability to question authority, to pursue knowledge for its own sake, to create art that serves no practical purpose but touches the soul. These are revolutionary concepts to us." She paused, her alien features conveying an emotion that transcended species barriers. "But with this freedom comes great responsibility. We Zarkonians used our technology to conquer. You have the power to do the same, but also the power to choose a different path." Her words resonated across the globe, sparking intense debates about humanity's future. As Earth's first faster-than-light ship neared completion, the question loomed large: how would humanity conduct itself among the stars? The answer began to take shape in the form of the Terran Confederation, a loose alliance of Earth's nations united by common goals of exploration, scientific advancement, and diplomatic outreach to other species. Unlike the Zarkonian Empire's model of conquest, the Confederation was founded on principles of mutual respect and cultural exchange. As Earth prepared for its first official foray into interstellar space, a ceremony was held at the newly constructed Unity spaceport. The ship, christened Horizon, stood gleaming on the launch pad, a testament to the combined efforts of human and Zarkonian engineering. Before an audience of billions watching via global broadcast, the ship's diverse crew, humans from various nations, alongside Zarkonian volunteers, prepared to embark on humanity's first diplomatic mission to the stars. Captain Elena Vasquez, chosen to lead this historic mission, stepped up to the podium. Her voice rang out clear and strong. "Today, we take our first steps into a larger universe. We go not as conquerors, but as explorers and peacekeepers. We carry with us the lessons of our past, the hopes of our present, and the dreams of our future." She turned to where Vexthor and Dr. Rodriguez sat side by side, the living symbol of the bridge between two once hostile species. "We have learned that our greatest strength lies not in our technology, not in our weapons, but in our spirit, in our ability to adapt, to empathize, to see beauty in diversity, and to choose cooperation over conflict." As Captain Vasquez spoke, people around the world listened, their hearts swelling with a mixture of pride and trepidation. In homes, schools, and public squares, humans of all ages and backgrounds contemplated their place in a universe they now knew was filled with both wonders and dangers. "We do not know what awaits us among the stars," Vasquez continued, her voice carrying the weight of human history and the promise of its future. "But we go forward with open minds and open hearts. We go to learn, to share, and yes, if necessary, to defend the values we hold dear." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the assembled crowd, and the cameras broadcasting her words to every corner of the globe. "To any beings watching from afar, know this: we are humanity. We have faced our own demons and those from beyond the stars. We have looked into the abyss of extinction and emerged stronger. We come in peace, but we will fiercely defend our right to exist, to be free, to chart our own destiny." As Captain Vasquez concluded her speech, a roar of applause erupted from the crowd. Tears were shed, hugs exchanged, and a palpable sense of unity permeated the air. Humanity stood on the brink of a new chapter in its existence, ready to take its place among the stars. Aboard the Horizon, as final preparations for launch were made, Zaldra approached Captain Vasquez. "I never imagined I would be part of something like this," she admitted. "In all our conquests, we Zarkonians never stopped to truly see the beings we encountered. You humans, you've taught us to look deeper, to seek understanding rather than dominance." Vasquez smiled, placing a hand on Zaldra's shoulder in a gesture of companionship that bridged the gap between their species. "And you've taught us the value of the freedom we often took for granted. Together, we'll show the universe what can be achieved when different species work in harmony." As the countdown began, a hush fell over Earth. In homes, offices, and public spaces, billions held their breath. The Horizon's engines ignited, a brilliant flare of light and energy that symbolized humanity's leap into a new era. The ship rose majestically, climbing through the atmosphere and into the velvet blackness of space. As it disappeared from view, its faster-than-light engines engaging, humanity collectively exhaled. They had done it. They had not only survived an alien invasion, but had emerged from it stronger, wiser, and ready to greet the universe on their own terms. In the Zarkonian Empire, news of these events caused shockwaves. The idea that a primitive species could not only defeat them, but also show mercy and seek understanding challenged the very foundations of their society. Debates raged, questions were asked that had never before been voiced, and slowly, inevitably, change began to stir. Back on Earth, as the excitement of the launch subsided, people returned to their daily lives. But something had changed. There was a new sense of purpose, a global unity that transcended old rivalries and conflicts. Humanity had been tested, had gazed into the depths of its own nature, and had chosen a path of growth and enlightenment. The invasion had revealed humanity as one of the deadliest species in the universe, capable of feats that defied the expectations of advanced alien civilizations. But in the aftermath, humanity had also shown itself to be one of the most adaptable, creative, and compassionate species as well. As the Horizon ventured into the unknown, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire planet, Earth stood ready for whatever the universe might bring. They had faced extinction and emerged victorious. They had taken technology meant for conquest and turned it towards exploration and peace. They had shown that the human spirit, with its boundless capacity for adaptation, compassion, and growth, was perhaps the deadliest and most beautiful force in the universe. The story of humanity's first contact with alien life had begun with an invasion. It continued now as an invitation to the galaxy to witness what humanity could become. The deadliest species in the universe had chosen to define that power not through conquest, but through understanding, growth, and the unwavering belief in the potential of every individual to shape the future. As the stars beckoned, humanity answered, ready to write the next chapter in its extraordinary journey.